It's definitely been a Monday, and I feel like some days I really just don't put any effort into my appearance in these videos. So it's just like kind of like I guess a way to watch, like, how bad will Holly look today in this video? But anyway, we're doing a recipe from the Princess Cookbook, and it's a cooler fall day, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do Rapunzel's Pumpkin Hazelnut Soup. Do the picture here. If you're familiar with Tangled, Pumpkin Hazelnut Soup was one of Rapunzel's favorite dishes that Mother Gothel would make for her. So this is a simple soup ingredient recipe. You basically take a pot, you take some oil, you saute a shallot, and then you add some canned pumpkin, some vegetable or chicken stock, and some other ingredients, and blend it all together, let it simmer. When it's close to being done, you add a little bit of sour cream and let it simmer. And then separately, you make like a breadcrumb topping, which has the hazelnuts in it. And then you put it together. Okay, so here is my pumpkin soup on the stove. I just kind of mixed everything together after sauteing the shallot and some olive oil. There's things like pumpkin puree and applesauce and some other ingredients in there. And again, I never give out the exact recipes. You can find it if you buy the cookbook. I'm gonna let this simmer for a little bit and let it cook. And when it's close to being done, I'm gonna work on the hazelnut bread topping. So here's my topping. I heated some olive oil in a pan, added some breadcrumbs, and once they kind of sauteed some, I added some chopped hazelnuts. I'm just gonna let that finish sauteing. Okay, so here's the soup with some breadcrumb topping I'm about to try. I think I noticed a little bit of the sour cream. You can kind of see little white spots. I didn't really quite melt in the soup the way I thought it would, but I guess maybe that's just the way it worked. All right, let's taste test it. Time to taste test the pumpkin hazelnut soup. I'm trying to let it cool a little bit. Like, I'm a little impatient with soups. I love them really nice and hot, but I also don't want to burn my tongue or the roof of my mouth. So I have a bit issue with that with food in general. All right, let's see. I got a little bit of the soup and the topping. First impression, that's pretty nice. I was worried it would maybe be a little too sweet, but the flavors work together really well. I actually kind of like the crunch from the bread topping that it brings to it. But yeah, so like always, I like to eat the entire dish, maybe heat it up for a day because there'll probably be leftovers, see how it holds up, and then kind of report back with my final thoughts and review, which will be coming up next. Okay, let's summarize the pumpkin hazelnut soup, which, I have to comment, I was a little surprised that this soup may not have appeared in the villain's cookbook. This wasn't the princess one. It was Rapunzel's favorite soup, but Mother Gothel made it for her. So I guess this is one of those ones that could have been in both or either or, but it was only in this, which I found interesting as well, because if you remember, the towering parfaits that was Rapunzel inspired was in both of them. But anyway, I really enjoyed this soup, actually. I thought it was tasty. I was worried it would be a little on the sweet side, and I kind of don't like my soups super sweet, I kind of like my soups to be a little bit more savory. And it wasn't super savory, but it wasn't sweet either. It was just a really nice balance. I thought it was enjoyable, and it was really simple and easy to make, which I really appreciated, especially if you just want like a nice soup on a cold day, especially in the fall. This is perfect, I believe. That being said, we'll get into my traditional rankings. The first ranking is on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being easy, inexpensive to find ingredients, and 5 being harder or more expensive to find ingredients. I'm going to give this one a 2. It's barely a 2. The only reason I give it a 2 is it does use a can of pumpkin puree, and usually I can find this all year long in the grocery store, but I do think like there's certain times of the year that maybe it's a little bit harder to find. It is the fall season when I'm making this, so obviously pumpkin is everywhere. And also you have to get some hazelnuts for the hazelnut bread topping. So that, nuts can be a little expensive. So that's why I'm giving it a 2, but I mean, it could almost be a 1 for some people, just depending on, what you have and what you want to spend. And the difficulty in making this on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being super easy and 5 being hard. I want to kind of give it a 1, but I think I'm just give it a 1.5. It really isn't hard. The hardest thing you really have to do is dice a shallot. And you have to watch when you make the breadcrumb topping, just that you don't burn the breadcrumbs on your pan a little bit. So you do have to watch it and stir it a little bit. So that's why I'm going to maybe give it like a 1.5, but it's really not difficult at all. I mean, you just basically throw everything in a pot and let it simmer for the most part. And then would I make this again on a scale of 1 to 5? I'm actually going to give it a 4 to a 5. Probably a 4. I'm trying to reserve 5s for things that I love so much that I'll probably make them frequently or rotate them into my normal cooking schedule more often. Whereas a 4 is something that I definitely really enjoyed, and I know I will make it again someday, but it's probably going to be one of those things that like maybe I make once or twice a year kind of situation, you know, or 1 to 3 times a year. And this probably falls in there, you know, it definitely has a lot of fall flavors, and I do love soup, but I am definitely one of those people, I tend to eat them more in the fall and winter. I'm not really a summer, spring, warm weather soup person, you know, so I don't tend to eat a lot of soup that time of year, but I will definitely make it again because it was delicious. So that's what I'm going to give it a 4. But either way, I thought this was a good recipe and definitely worth checking out.